Hey, I want to ask you something about Brian because he tweeted something, and I know we don't spend a lot of time talking about the modern product. Certainly not on the other channel a lot here, but there was a big segment this past Monday night with CM Punk and Seth Rollins, and there was a report that came out amongst all the news websites that said that there was no producer for that segment, and it was written in a way where they're giving credit to the office for letting the guys do their thing and for not scripting it word for word and that sort of thing. And Brian quote tweeted it and said, "This is so stupid. When there's no physicality, there's no producer assigned to a segment. It's been that way forever. It doesn't mean there's not a writer working with talent. The bigger question is, why is anyone within the company sharing scripts slash rundowns with anyone outside the company?" And I know that you dealt with a lot of this. I wanted to get your take on Brian's tweet here and his bigger question. Why is anyone within the company sharing scripts and rundowns with anyone outside of the company? Was that a big issue that you remember trying to get your arms around in WWE?
Well, you always try to address leaks and things that spoil surprises. Uh, it's just counterproductive. So I would have a hard time disagreeing with Brian Gewirtz on virtually anything. Our philosophy of the business was unique, different. I have my opinion, he had his, but that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong. It just means we have two different mindsets, and there's more than one right way to get something done. So Brian's is really sharp. He was a very crucial player, and that's why his book is so entertaining. It's just really well done, and it's got great stories. And it's like our book business is about to pick up is it's it's got a lot of short reads,
Hmm.
makes it more reader friendly, in my opinion. But Brian's, I can't go off course of what he's saying.
We should talk about the main event here of this Monday Night Raw. It's Goldberg and Hunter. They go 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Meltzer says it's the best match these two have had up until this point, probably because it was kept short. But as a reminder, this is in Salt Lake City, the very same city where Goldberg made his television wrestling debut on for Monday Nitro, like 6 years and change earlier. But this is only his second time wrestling a match here on TV in Salt Lake City. And I don't know, I just found it interesting that, the same city where he had a debut for WCW, years later, he's going to be in the main event as the champ for the WWF. And it does feel like they started to, towards the end of Goldberg's run here, finally, quote unquote, figure it out, like what the best way to position him is.
Sometimes that takes a little time, Conrad. It takes a little trial and error. It really
Yep.
does. We remember the errors, but it's a trial and error proposition. What is our best way to position this unique talent? And Goldberg certainly was a very unique talent. He's still a unique guy. I have a lot of respect and admiration for Billy. The old story that I saw him first on when he was playing football for Tulsa Edison High School. He was a dominator. He was the best defensive lineman in the state, and he signed with Georgia. That broke a lot of our Sooner hearts because he was that dominating. So, but I've known him his entire adult life, and I've never had a bad moment with him. And we've had plenty of opportunities, but we never did. Classy guy, but you got to figure out what it's going to take. Go back to Steve Austin's maturation. It took trial and error, and it worked. It worked out. I think Austin got over all right.
I think it worked out. We're going to talk about how over Austin is after we finish talking about this Raw. Kane's going to come out at the end of this match between Hunter and Goldberg, and that turns it into a three-way brawl. And Bischoff announces, "Hey, we're going to have a three-way with you guys at Armageddon for the title." And interestingly enough, even though it does a 4.4 rating, that's not actually the main event. The main event is Shawn Michaels and Jericho teaming up to take on Flair and Batista. Shawn's going to super kick Flair, but Jericho turns on Michaels and super kicks him, but Shawn still falls on Flair for the pin. But the match itself is a bit of a mess. The pyro doesn't ventilate properly, so the whole arena is filled with smoke. Flair's going to bust his face open on the ropes accidentally. After the match, Shawn is going to get the Batista bomb, and Batista's going to choke him out. Shawn's actually bleeding from the mouth. It's a hot finish to a Monday Night Raw here. But talking about hot, you mentioned how hot Austin was. Check out this write-up from Dave in the Observer. Austin did an autograph session this past week in Houston that saw about 1,500 people come and 900 books sold at a Walmart, and a similarly successful one at the Fort Hood Army base with Jim Ross that drew 2,000 folks.
Yeah, who drew that house?
Might be a coin flip with you and Austin.
Yeah, right.
He's done a few more in recent days and selling similar numbers at all of them. In Fort Hood, they were there for 2 hours when the time was supposed to be up to make his flight back home that night, and they asked to cut off the line. But Austin refused,
Right.
saying he was going to sign for everyone who came, and wound up staying an extra 3 hours. He also stayed an extra several hours in Houston, telling people he didn't want to turn away anyone who came for an autograph. This is something that respectfully a lot of talent wouldn't do.
Right.
If there was an easy out and there was a flight booked, and it's not an excuse, it is a real travel circumstance, they'd say, well, I'm not missing my flight. Austin said, screw the flight. I know it's going to cost extra money and be a hassle and inconvenient. These folks are here to see me, and they're going to get what they came for. It tells you a lot about the person Steve Williams, not this Steve Austin character, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It wasn't even an option, Conrad. I was there. I was on site. It wasn't even a discussed option. It's just, he saw the volume of people. He's not going to run them through the line like a cattle call, like they're branding steers or something. It was just a matter of fact. We're going to stay until we get everybody signed. And so I stayed. The same deal. A long time. But that's what he wanted. You do anything as a head of talent or a booker or whatever role you're in that day, you do whatever you got to do to keep your talents happy, and especially the top talent, just to be perfectly frank and upfront. And if he wanted to stay extra, then by God, I'm going to stay extra with him because he's my guy and he's our guy. He's the focal point of the promotion. So why would I not do everything I could do to make talent happy? I did it with a lot of guys. So that's a bad shot of me with my stomach. What am I going to do about that? But
well, you don't have it anymore. Come on now.
I lost a lot of weight.
You have. You're shrinking over there.
I know. Yeah. All right. But that's what you do. I remember I learned that from the Watts. Watts used to take care of guys. He babysat the junkyard dog for forever because JY was our top guy and was selling the most tickets by far. And so Cowboy made his life as easy for him as he could. For example, when you buy a guy a designer Lincoln Continental like he did for Ernie and he did for JYD, you know that you're doing all you can because the travel was in a car. Everybody wasn't flying here to there, private planes and all that stuff. I wonder how some talents today that are spoiled with a private flight are ever going to be able to transfer back to commercial. It's a different world. It's a different world. On your own plane, you don't hear any crying babies or people complaining about whatever. It's just a whole different mindset. And so when guys get to that point in their career where those private planes are not available, it's going to be interesting to see how they react.